Merhabalar, herkese iyi haftalar dilerim. Bugün yine 3G1K toplantımızda bir aradayız. Bugünkü konuğumuz ICANN Bölge Başkan Yardımcısı Esmat olacak. Ankara temsilcimiz Sedef Hanım'la beraber kendisine sorularımızı yönelteceğiz. İnternet dünyası, yeni teknolojilerle yaşanan değişim, gelişim, ICANN'in stratejileri ve çalışma öncelikleri konusunda kendisinin bilgilerini, yorumlarını alacağız. Tabii akabinde Türkiye'nin bu bölgedeki internet gelişimi konusundaki önemi ve daha yapılması gerekenlere de odaklanacağız. Ben şimdi Sedef Hanım'ı da davet etmek isterim. Sedefciğim günaydın. Hanım diye başladım, kimse kusura bakmasın. Sedefciğim günaydın, iyi haftalar olsun hepimize.
Hepimize canım.
Şimdi Behar Bey'i de davet ediyorum. Kendisine davetimizi gönderdik. O da katılacak. Kendisi de Mısır'da. Uçuş yasakları, daha doğrusu uçuş sınırlamaları dolayısıyla yurt dışına git gel yapamıyor. İş bu sebeple Mısır'da kalıyor. Bir dakikanızı rica ediyoruz. Mr. Bahar?
Yes.
We were waiting for you. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning. Good to see you, and good to
see you.
see everyone here.
Can you please accept the allowance for video?
Okay, and where can I find that? Is it in the chat or?
Up there is a webcams sign, and you have to share my webcam. You have to select share my webcam. Yes, done. Great. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've got 1 hour and we've got so many questions, by the way. So let's begin, right?
I'm ready.
Okay, great. First of all, can you tell us about ICANN's operations in Turkey?
Sure. ICANN established its office in Istanbul in May 2013. It's a regional office that serves the Middle East and Africa region, or the MEA region. To date, we have 23 staff members across the region, of which 15 are based in the Istanbul office.
And it operates for the region, right?
Yeah, it operates and serves the entire region.
Entire region. Region consists of Turkey, Middle East, and Eastern Europe, Africa. Sorry.
Yeah, Turkey, Middle East, and Africa.
Turkey, Middle East, Africa. Okay, then. Sedef, your turn.
What is the position of Istanbul in reaching the region? What advantages does it provide to you as the Middle East and Africa regional office?
So the Istanbul regional office aims to better serve the regional needs through a distinguished team that performs the different functions of ICANN and works closely with our stakeholders to implement ICANN's strategic plan at the regional level. Since its establishment, our activities and engagement have greatly increased in Turkey and the region. We have become more closer to the community in terms of service delivery as we work in the same time zone of the region. Hence, the response is faster in terms of communication, in terms of fulfilling requests that come from across the region. Istanbul, of course, is a unique city where cultures from around the world intersect. It's full of talents and has a strong human capital of well-educated youth. It's also an international hub that connects Turkey to numerous places around the world, which is a key advantage for our regional team, as we often need to travel to various places for ICANN meetings and other regional engagements.
Can you share information about your relations with service providers and software developers, both globally and also in Turkey? And why is this communication is important and also necessary?
Right. So internet service providers are represented at ICANN as part of what we call the Internet Service Providers and Connectivity Providers constituency. At the regional level, we engage with ISPs. Some of those ISPs host a copy of the ICANN managed root server. For example, Turkcell Super Online in Turkey are hosting one. Some ISPs also attend technical workshops that we organize around topics related to the domain name system and the security of the domain name system. And we have organized several workshops in Istanbul and Ankara over the past few years, and they were attended by various stakeholders, including ISPs. As for software developers, we didn't have significant relationships with them in the past, but this is beginning to change. And the reason for the change is the emergence of a very important issue in ICANN space, which is called universal acceptance. And if you allow me, I can elaborate further on what universal acceptance is.
Yes, please.
So,
and can you please also add what does it require?
Sure, yeah. So universal acceptance is a fundamental requirement for a truly multilingual and digitally inclusive internet. It ensures that all domain names, including domains in non-Latin scripts, known as internationalized domain names, are treated equally and can be used by all internet-enabled applications, devices, and systems. Although universal acceptance is not new as a concept, it has become more pressing in the last few years with the advent of over 1,200 new top-level domains, of which some are internationalized domain names or IDNs. Now, why is universal acceptance important? Because simply many of the next billion new internet users will likely come from developing countries where the Latin script is not the primary script, and therefore it's critical that we ensure that these users are able to fully access the internet in their native languages. Now, what does it require? It requires universal acceptance. I mean, it requires concerted efforts by various stakeholders, including software developers, who need to be more aware of the issue and to learn how to make the systems they develop and maintain universal acceptance ready. Therefore, we've recently been engaging with software developers, providing them with information, with tools, organizing workshops and technical trainings to help them better understand how to solve issues pertaining to universal acceptance.
How's their feedback after that kind of workshop,
the feedback,
etc.?
Yeah, I mean, so this is an ongoing effort. I mean, we're not done yet, and so far we've seen progress in some countries in the region with regard to universal acceptance. I'm also aware that in Turkey, for example, there have been efforts to conduct some testing around internationalized emails and other applications. So we've been seeing some progress taking place across the region.
Thank you so much. how does ICANN view new technologies?
ICANN's role is to coordinate the domain name system, or in short, the DNS. And sometimes we also refer to it as the Internet's system of unique identifiers. So this is what ICANN does. And without this coordination of this system, we wouldn't have a unified and global internet where it's possible to reach each other anywhere in the world. Now, for ICANN to perform its mission successfully, we work very closely with many stakeholders around the world to ensure that the internet continues to evolve safely, securely, and in a stable manner. So to that end, it's also necessary for us to understand and identify the major trends and risks, technological trends and risks that could have an impact on the DNS. So with technology developments such as 5G, Internet of Things, blockchain, our technical team keeps monitoring such developments. They study them carefully and provide in-depth technical analysis on how these technologies may affect, the overall functioning and the overall operation and security of the DNS. So this is something that, the technology or the developments in technology, this is something that, our technical team at ICANN keeps a close eye on and report regularly on developments that take place there, particularly in relation to the mission of ICANN and the operation of the DNS.
You mentioned about stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders?
So ICANN is representative of a wide range of stakeholder groups from the governments, from the private sector, from civil society, from the technical community, academia, and so on. And they have different constituencies within ICANN where they can participate and contribute to the policy development process at ICANN. So, for example, the governments have a committee called the Governmental Advisory Committee. Private sector are represented under more than one constituency. Some of those constituencies are for what we call the contracted parties, the companies that provide DNS services like registries and registrars. Civil society, they have other constituencies like the at-large community and so on and so forth. So it's a wide range of stakeholder groups that come to ICANN and contribute to the policy development process at ICANN.
Great, thank you so much for this info. Sedef, your turn.
Thank you. During the pandemic, now we have a new concept, new normal. Everyone talks about the new normal. What is the new normal for ICANN?
We're not exactly sure about the new normal. I mean, we're trying to, explore this. But since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic last year, ICANN organization decided to shut down its offices around the world and notified all staff members to work from home. So to date, our offices are still closed, including our office in Istanbul. Staff continue to work from home and business travel is banned. All our meetings, including the ICANN international meetings, have been organized virtually over the past year. We also work closely with the ICANN community to ensure that the ICANN virtual meetings are effective. We continue to seek feedback from the community on how to improve the virtual meetings. and while working from home, and the virtual meetings seem to be working well, face-to-face meetings and the human interactions are irreplaceable. And we really look forward to going back to normal operations as soon as conditions permit.
Great. By the way, what are the expectations of your partners when it comes to new normal? What do they want right now?
So I think what we've been experiencing, over the past year is many people, have gotten exhausted from the virtual environment. Sometimes we refer to it as the Zoom fatigue. Like, people are doing a significant amount of, Zoom calls every day,
etc.
past 12 months. Yeah, every activity, every meeting, people have to attend is a virtual meeting, and this is quite tiring and exhaustive, and particularly that much of the ICANN work, much of the progress that we make with regard to our policy work or technical engagement like trainings and so on, this kind of work normally take place in a face-to-face setup. So switching entirely to a virtual remote setup, while it's technically doable, and we've been doing it for the past 12 months, but doing it for a long time made people realize, okay, let's try to go back to normal as soon as possible. So this is the kind of feedback we're getting, that people are really exhausted. Although I must say that also the community, the ICANN community, have been doing a great job, in ensuring that the work continues to go on, and continue to make progress with the different aspects of our work. But still, as I said earlier, the face-to-face part is irreplaceable.
Irreplaceable. Will there be new domains?
I'm sorry, can you say this again?
Will there be new domains?
New domains. Yeah, I mean, the ICANN board.
Sorry for interrupting, but how do you select new domains? What's your strategy? What are your priorities when it comes to select new domains, set new domains?
Right. So the ICANN board is committed to opening another round of new generic top-level domains. The board, however, has made it clear that no new date for the next round of new GTLDs will be set until the community, the ICANN community, completes the various reviews related to the previous round. As you know, there was a previous round back in 2012, and one of the key steps that has to be accomplished is to complete the review or the various reviews related to this round, and also for the subsequent procedures, policy development process to get finalized by the community. Now, currently, the work regarding the future new GTLD application rounds is with the community. It's in the policy development phase, and the ICANN organization looks forward to the outcomes of this work in order to move forward. So basically, this is a community-led effort. Once the community, completes its work, the board is going to look at the recommendations made by the community, and once the board approves those recommendations, it will direct the ICANN organization to move forward with the implementation.
Great. By the way, our president, Murat Göçev, sends you his best wishes and asks 2 questions. First, what is the procedure of selling domains? Is it possible to sell domain from any ordinary simple company?
Okay, first I'd like to say hi to Murat, and thank you for the question, Murat. So the selling domains, you know, could be through one of 2 ways, primarily one of 2 ways. First is to get the domain through one of the ICANN accredited registrars. So those are companies accredited by ICANN to provide domain services. And the other way is to get the domains via, resellers. So there are, many companies that work as resellers for the accredited registrars, and oftentimes people, for different reasons, they may choose to go through one of those resellers. So this is basically, how domains are being sold.
Great, thank you so much for the answer. And Mr. Göçev's second question: why Turkey has to use .com before .tr? For example, England uses country code, but we use .com.country code.
Right. This is a good question. So the answer is simply it's a policy decision to be made by the registry, the country code registry itself. I mean, they make the decision whether they want to make registrations possible directly under the top level domain, which is TR, or in your case, or UK in the UK, or to have some hierarchy under the top level domain, like com.tr or gov.tr and so forth. And sometimes some registries do offer both. You can register directly under the top level domain, or you can register under a second level domain. So this is basically a policy decision pertaining to the registry itself, and ICANN does not, intervene or does not have any say in that regard.
So Turkey authorities in Turkey have this decision, by the way.
Yeah, it's a decision made by the .tr registry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for the info. Sedef, it's yours.
Thank you. And can you share details about your IPv6 strategy?
Okay, so IPv6 stands for Internet Protocol version 6. It's the next generation Internet protocol created in response to the need for a greater number of Internet addresses than what the previous version, which is IP version 4, could offer. IPv6 is meant to support the anticipated rapid expansion of the Internet in a world in which each device, each connected device will need at least one unique IP address, and also to support applications that require ongoing availability of IP addresses. IPv6 has sufficient room for growth for the foreseeable future, which means innovation at a lower cost, and this is of course good for technology startups. The regional internet registries, those are the regional entities that manage the IP number resources at the regional level. They lead the overall awareness campaign for IPv6 adoption. As ICANN, we fully support the efforts by the regional internet registries, and we're also working from our end to ensure that ICANN services are ready for IPv6. So from our side, our technical team has been working on, ensuring that all our systems are, ready to, transition to v6.
Okay,
Thank you. You mentioned about ICANN community. What is the ICANN community? And you gave information about policy changes, developments, etc. How is this policy constantly developed? And consistency is the, I think, main thing when it comes to ICANN community.
Right. Yeah. So I did refer to this earlier, but let me say that basically the ICANN is made up of three parts. Okay. The first part is the ICANN community, which is made up of stakeholders from all over the world, as I said, from governments, private sector, and so on. The second part is the ICANN board. Okay, this is the body that decides which of the policy recommendations made by the community are accepted, which of them are accepted based on discussions, input, and so on. So the ICANN board is the decision-making body within ICANN. The third part is the ICANN organization. This is the staff that work to implement approved policies and facilitate, further discussions. Now, the three parts work very closely together. Okay, so basically, the ICANN community, they develop policies, make recommendations. ICANN board make decisions about those policies and recommendations, and then ICANN org would, take on the implementation part. So the three parts together make ICANN, and they work very closely and coordinate very closely together. And this is how the policy. So the policy, the other part of your question was about how's the policy being developed. It's being developed by the community. The approval or the adoption of the policies comes from the board, and then the implementation is done by the ICANN organization.
Sounds like a hard work. Listening everyone, having everyone's expectations and making them as a regularity.
Right.
Great then. Sedef, your turn.
Yeah. What are the pros and cons of moving forward with so many stakeholders? For example, does processes take long time?
Yeah, so the ICANN's multi-stakeholder policy development process is a bottom-up, consensus-based, open and inclusive process. It ensures that all stakeholders have a voice at the table, and this is the key fundamental characteristic of the model. It may take longer time compared to top-down processes. But it's far more open and inclusive, and I believe that its pros does outweigh the cons.
Okay,
Okay.
but are there any problems when it comes to move forward with arguments, etc.? When it comes to that kind of so many stakeholders from different countries, from different levels, etc., and with different priorities.
Yeah, this is true, and that's why the process usually takes time. But it's the ICANN community has evolved over time. So ICANN has been around for more than 22 years now, and the community has evolved and learned from experience and different experiences over time. And when they come together in a working group or any setup, they come with one single objective, is to resolve issues around the policy matter that they are working on, and to reach some outcomes in order to move forward to next steps of implementation and so on and so forth. So even though the policy development process itself takes time, and usually there are issues that may seem unresolvable at some point, that it may seem that the group is reaching a deadlock or something of that sort. But with the experience of the many people in the community, with the ongoing communication, the engagement, also the understanding that this is not about individuals. This is about internet users, because the work of ICANN, in fact, does serve the 4 billion users around the world. So you're doing something for the public good. So with that understanding in mind, and with little patience and so on, issues are usually resolved, and community and working groups are able to reach consensus.
Great. Sedef, your turn.
What is ICANN planning for the next 5 years? How does pandemic era affect these plans and your agenda? And I want to learn about your government and public sector relationship globally, and at the same time in Turkey with Ankara. And what's your plans, your targets? Can you share us?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this is in fact like several questions, not one. So first part is about the ICANN planning for the next 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. Second part is about how COVID-19 is affecting this plan, and the third part is about the government and the public sectors and relations with those entities, including with Turkish government entities and so on. Okay, so let me take it one by one. Now, the ICANN strategic plan, the current plan, it comprises 5 key strategic objectives. I'm going to just mention them quickly. I'm not going to go into details. First objective is about strengthening the security of the DNS and DNS root server system. Second objective is about improving the effectiveness of ICANN's multi-stakeholder governance model. The third is about evolving the unique identifier systems in coordination and collaboration with relevant parties. Fourth, addressing geopolitical issues impacting ICANN's mission to ensure a single and globally interoperable internet. And the fifth strategic objective is to ensure ICANN's long-term financial sustainability. So this strategic plan is supported by a 5-year operating plan that details how and at what cost ICANN will implement the strategic plan. Now, at the regional level, so we talked about the regional office in Istanbul. At the regional level, we ensure that the ICANN strategic plan is implemented at the regional level according to the needs and priorities of the region. So this is the first part about the planning for the next 5 years. Second part about COVID-19. I'm gonna give a couple of examples about how COVID-19 has impacted our plan. Now, one of the greatest impacts COVID-19 has had on the ICANN community is the limitation on the face-to-face meetings and travel, as I mentioned earlier. So the community ICANN community normally accomplishes much of its work through the public meetings, the ICANN public meetings, and other in-person sessions. Of course, without the ability to meet in person, we've had to reprioritize. We had to focus on the most pressing issues. And as I mentioned earlier, the community also is experiencing what we call the Zoom fatigue, or the work overload. But frankly, we have also been able to progress our work and accomplish more than what we initially expected possible. So this is one example, the fact that our meetings, engagements, etc., had to be held virtually. Another area of focus for ICANN during the pandemic is one related to DNS threats, domain name system threats, and efforts carried out by our security team in coordination with various actors in the community, from industry, from governments, law enforcement, to help mitigate these threats that include things like phishing, malware distribution, and other types of attacks. So in support of these efforts, our security team has built a system that helps identify abusive domains. These are domains, that leverage the coronavirus pandemic, like, for example, to see domains incorporating terms like COVID or coronavirus, among others. And so this system does a thorough analysis to determine whether or not these domains are involved in any malicious related activities. So these are two different examples, one from the ICANN engagement and meetings perspective. The other one is more from the technical work that ICANN does. Two areas and two different areas that have been affected by the pandemic. The third part of your question was about the public sector, the governments, and the relationships. So as I said earlier, one of the stakeholder groups at ICANN is the representation of governments in a committee called the Governmental Advisory Committee, or the GAC. The GAC has over 150 governments represented. They participate in ICANN. They provide advice regarding public policy issues pertaining to ICANN's mission and policy aspects of the domain name system. We, in addition to the role that the GAC plays.
Your voice.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Esmat, we can't hear you. Can't hear you.
ICANN does. They have a good understanding of what ICANN does and how this, may relate to their work. So we do engage very closely with governments around the world.
You engage with governments, okay, but how about security companies? And how is their feedback? And how is your relationship with them going on? Because at least they are private sector companies, and they always aware of risks, etc. But during the pandemic, there are so many, as you mentioned, phishing attacks, etc. VPN attack related attacks, etc. How's their feedbacks when it comes to cooperation with you? And what are their priorities?
Right. So we do engage with different private sector businesses in the the internet space, whether service providers or technology providers and so on. Now, of course, during the pandemic, there are a wide range of issues that may be facing those companies, including security issues. And when we talk about security issues, not all security issues relate to the DNS or the domain name system or to ICANN's mission. You mentioned phishing, or I did mention phishing. Again, not all phishing attacks, for example, are related to DNS. So what we've been focusing on over the past year is to engage with those companies and others to ensure that the DNS continues to operate in a stable and secure manner. And we are also cognizant of the fact that those companies, they do engage with other international organizations and entities around other security-related issues that are not related to our mission.
What are their expectations? What they want from you?
I think they want to make sure that ICANN performs its mission in a performs the mission, in a good way. That we our mission is very focused on the security and stability of the DNS to ensure the internet continues to operate as one global network, and this is what they want from ICANN, is to stay focused on the mission, to perform the mission with according to our bylaws and according to the procedures identified or outlined in the bylaws and so on. And at the same time, also they want ICANN to provide technical advice where possible through capacity building activities that we conduct through technical workshops and various kind of engagement that we organize. This is also something the community is expecting us to continue to do.
So they are ready for cooperation with you.
Absolutely.
Great.
And sorry, Anna,
sure.
We couldn't hear you when you are telling us about public sector. I want to learn what's your targets and plans with public sector in Turkey?
So one of the strategic objectives of ICANN in the coming 5 years is one related to geopolitics, what is called geopolitics. And by geopolitics, we mean there are different types of regulations and legislations that have been taking place in the past few years. Some of those regulations do have an impact on the domain name system, like, for example, the General Data Protection Regulation of the European Union. So to answer your question about our plans in regards to public sectors and governments and so on, is to continue to engage with them to ensure that they have good understanding about the role of ICANN and what ICANN does, and why the mission of ICANN is important for the overall operation and functioning of the domain name system and of the internet, and also to make sure that they also understand the potential impact of some of the regulations and legislations on the DNS and on ICANN's mission. So our focus with the public sector entities basically is engaging with them and ensuring that they have the good understanding of ICANN and its mission.
Thank you.
You mentioned about regulations like GDPR. In which ways regulations like GDPR changed your strategy and priorities? And what are your opinions when it comes to regulations? What do we need more when it comes to regulations?
Okay, so the GDPR, or General Data Protection Regulation, has indeed become a priority for ICANN over the past few years, as it has had an impact on the domain registration data, okay, also called WHOIS data. Now, the availability of the domain registration data is critical. And with the implementation of GDPR, the ICANN community has had to work together to develop a system where access to this data, the WHOIS data, can be lawfully gained. So companies need to make sure that they are compliant, with GDPR. So ICANN community members have contributed thousands of hours to producing a proposal for a more centralized and automated replacement for WHOIS. It's quite a complex and costly solution, and before we implement it, we need more clarity from the European data privacy authorities.
Sorry for interrupting, but can you share details about WHOIS?
Yeah, so WHOIS, in a nutshell, when someone registers a domain name, he or she shares some information about themselves, like name, email address, sometimes mail address, and so on. So this is considered personal information, and therefore we according to GDPR, we have to ensure that whatever public data available in the WHOIS data is available in compliance with GDPR, and also to ensure that other private data can be accessed lawfully through a lawful process. And this is the system that the ICANN community have been working on, implementing.
Great, thank you so much for the detail, because I know about WHOIS, but I'd like to make other people learn about this. And also, what do we need more when it comes to regulations? What's more needed? Because we are talking about 5G, we are talking about IoT, everyone's connected to the internet, and continuous connection is a must.
Right. So I think when it comes to regulations, I think what we need is more coordination and more discussions around what those regulations or how those regulations could potentially affect the internet. So the internet, it was developed many years ago without any consideration to regulations at different levels. but with time and with the growth of the internet, many governments have started to implement some regulations at the national level. I mean, long time ago, during the 90s, we've seen regulations regarding access to the internet, and some governments began to license, for example, service providers to be able to provide internet service and so on. Now the regulations have also
same happened in Turkey too, when we're talking about
right.
At least 25 years ago.
Right. Now the regulations have also evolved over time, and now we're more seeing regulations related to content, for example, or related to other areas. Now, ICANN, of course, as our mission is very focused on DNS. We don't get really involved in regulations that fall outside our remit. But in some instances, some regulations may have unintended consequences on the DNS. I mean, some regulator may be working on certain regulations about something, and they might not think that this regulation may affect the DNS, like GDPR, for example. I think that when they developed the GDPR, they didn't think about the DNS, and they didn't think that GDPR would impact the DNS, but in actual fact it did. So this is where ICANN is involved, is to make sure that governments and regulators first understand our mission, our role as ICANN, and secondly, just help them also foresee some of the unintended consequences of those regulations on the overall operation of the DNS.
So coordination and collaboration matters most. But how is the government's feedback when it comes to coordination and cooperation? Do they will to coordinate and cooperate with you? And how do you make that's a need for?
Yeah, I would say they are very willing to coordinate. In fact, they have been coordinating. I mean, the Government Advisory Committee at ICANN, the GAC, has been very active over the past years in work related to GDPR, but also other kinds of policy work related to ICANN, and I'm sure that other international organizations also do see some level of engagement and participation by governments. But as far as ICANN is concerned, yes, we do see positive feedback coming from governments. They are engaged and more willing to engage around issues pertaining to security, DNS security, DNS abuse, and so on.
Great, so good feedback. How do you position Turkish market and its role in the region, and the opinions of the center, ICANN Center headquarters?
Well, I'm sure Turkey is one of the largest economies in the region, and when it comes to the information technology and communication market, I think it has one of the largest markets in the region. I've been to Turkey many times over the past years and had meetings with different companies, service providers, hosting providers, domain registrars and resellers, and so on. And it's very obvious that Turkey has a large pool of talents and well-educated people, particularly within the youth community. I don't have, honestly, much insights about the local market in Turkey, but from my general reading about the region, I know that it's one of the largest markets across the region.
But Turkey, as you mentioned, you are responsible for Middle East and Africa and centralist Turkey. There are so many different kind of countries with different kind of economics, different kind of technological availabilities, etc. Isn't it hard for you to manage that kind of geography?
No, it's not hard. Well, we do have engagement. I mean, in addition to the staff we have in the Istanbul office, we do have engagement teams that are based in different countries around the region, in Africa, in the Middle East. I'm based in Cairo, Egypt. I haven't, moved to Istanbul yet. So we do have engagement teams in different places around the region, and they work closely with stakeholders in those countries. At the same time, the staff we have in Istanbul do offer services to those stakeholders. They do have the expertise, they do have the knowledge, they do speak the language, so they're able to communicate. We have one of the global support centers of ICANN. We have 3 global support centers to provide first level support to ICANN community around the world, one in the US, one in Istanbul, and the 3rd one in Singapore. Each office serves a different, geographical area with a different time zone. So our support team in Istanbul are able to respond to queries coming not only from within Middle East and Africa, but from other parts of the world as well. So I don't think we have any difficulty serving the entire region through our regional office in Istanbul, both via the team that is based in Istanbul and also the team that is based in other parts of the region.
Do expectations change according to the country, or are there any similarities?
Well, there are similarities, but of course there are variances as well. I mean, Africa alone is 54 countries. Okay, so I can't say that the 54 countries has the same kind of priorities or needs. There are differences for sure, and while we have a regional plan with regional objectives and so on, but we do also acknowledge that each country has also its own needs and priorities, and through our engagement teams, we work closely with those countries to serve their needs and priorities accordingly.
Great. So Sedef and me, we asked our questions. These are the things we'd like to ask. We'd like to learn from you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for beginning the week with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, hope to see you in Istanbul again. Hope to make this interview in Istanbul too.
Right. I just, I look forward to, as I said, going back to normal and being able to travel, and I'll be in Istanbul as soon as I can.
And
just
thank you.
In Ankara,
give us a call. That's it. Sorry for interrupting.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a nice week.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Herkese çok teşekkür ederim katılımınız için. Keyifli bir sohbet oldu ve internet dünyasının geleceği, bugünü ve geleceği, artı bu konuda işbirlikleri ne kadar önemli olduğunu işin merkezinden öğrenme imkanı bulduk. Herkese ayırdığı vakit için çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Sedefciğim iyi bir hafta olsun hepimiz için. Sevgiler.
Hoşça kalın.